Hi there, I'm Jennifer Tryon. Today, I'm going to guide you through how you can use the Janome Accusketch app with your Janome embroidery machine. I'm using the Janome S9 Indigo, and it works perfectly for making very sentimental handmade gifts. I've done my grandmother's recipe on a tea towel. I've stitched out my daughter's kindergarten artwork onto a pillow. And today I'm working on a family tree quilt, complete with my ancestors' signatures all the way down to me and my husband and our own children's signatures. It's going to be a family heirloom. So I've got my quilt sandwich. I'm just gonna set it aside and I'm gonna bring in my largest hoop. So I'm hooping up the stabilizer rather than my quilt sandwich because that would be way too thick. And then I'll lay my quilting on top of the hoop. And I just like to add some pins around the perimeter. Now, when you're embroidering traditionally, you wouldn't necessarily have to embroider through the quilt sandwich. However, I like the extra texture it gives when I do the embroidering on the quilt top and the batting. I'm gonna leave the backing though. So I'm gonna take the magnetic clips that come with the hoops and attach them to the sides so everything stays nice and stable. Now I'm ready to embroider my design. There's a little button on the side right-hand corner that's gonna open up the arm. Now I've got something I can attach my embroidery hoop to. Put it in the hole and lock it into place. So on my iPad, I'm opening the Accusketch app. I'm choosing the RE20A size hoop, which is the 6.69 by 7.87 inch size. I usually like to think just under 7 and just under 8 inches. And then press create. This opens up a blank page. And now this is where we can import our photos so that they're ready to trace. Because that's really what we're doing here. We're tracing out that signature, that drawing, that recipe. So, but what I first need to do is choose a photo. So I got my sisters and my mom to all send me their signatures. My mom even sent me my grandparents' marriage certificate, so I got their signatures. And I think if I tried a little harder, I could go back a little further. Maybe next time. So for this one, I'm gonna choose my sister's family's signatures. And now that brings me to a menu where I've got the pencil, the eraser, the line attaching tool. Again, I can go back to photos if I want. I can turn the photo on or off. I've got stitch on this side. We don't need that quite yet. You can put the embroidery grid on your screen if you like, so you know where things are lining up. You can zoom in and you can ask it questions. So you can take a tour of the app. Settings allows you to choose your stitch, to choose the color of draw lines, if you want to change your color of thread. So get comfortable. Hold your pencil like you would any other pencil. I like to zoom right in just by pinching and pulling. You can zoom in. That way I've got a bit more control and I can just start tracing. Every time you lift your pencil, that is going to lift the stitch. So if you want things to stitch out nice and quickly, I would keep things going in one continuous line. But if there's a natural break and you lift your pencil, that's where the sewing machine is going to tie off. So I try to draw exactly the lines that they have. Go slow. Okay, I kind of messed up right here. See that? So erase, erase. Because I hadn't lifted my pencil, it's erasing the whole thing. I can put that back if I want and use just the eraser so I don't lose the whole thing. So now I'm ready to stitch. It looks so cute with the kids writing, and I've saved myself some free motion quilting by adding some of that embroidery in there. I've just done that with lines. So I'm gonna press stitch. Now everything has been transferred into stitches, and you've got a choice. On the bottom left here, you can see single stitch, triple stitch, zigzag stitch, and stem stitch. Typically, I like to embroider when I'm doing writing and the drawing in a triple stitch. So you can see the red in the app here is the stitches and what it's gonna stitch out like, and the black is your writing. So when I reduce the stitch length, everything gets a little more precise, and that's what we want. So now I'm just gonna press send, and we're using the Wi-Fi. And now it's gonna ask me what sewing machine I wanna send it to. So it's looking right now for what machines I've got hooked up. There it is, the S9 Indigo. I can just choose it. Now, and it's giving me the option to change my hoop size here too, in case I change my mind from the beginning. But no, I'm sticking with the big hoop, and then all I need to do is press send. Now, before your machine is ready to embroider, you've got the arm open, the hoop is hooked in. You want to make sure you're in embroidery mode. I can either choose my hoop size, or I can allow the iPad to tell it for me. So when I press send, now my entire drawing from Accusketch is in my sewing machine, ready to embroider. But I'm gonna go ahead and start stitching it out. And for that, you just need to press start. So to thread the S9, lift up the top cover, thread goes on like this, with this small spool cap. Make sure it's not so tight that it can't move. And you've got this little silver arm right here. The thread goes under, around, and then down into the channel. So when you bring it down, you want to go behind this bar and then in behind this little bar too, into that little slot. And this machine has an automatic needle threader. So you just pull the thread through this little channel with the presser foot down, bring down your automatic needle threader. So then we can just press start. Make sure you've got your embroidery foot attached. Snip off the tail so that you're not sewing over anything. And press start again. So while that continues to stitch, because it really doesn't need any help from me, I can go ahead and continue tracing out the rest of my names. I've got all my signatures stitched out onto my quilt top. And I decided to applique this heart onto the center with mine and my husband's. That way this big tree trunk has sort of us in the center and then going up with our parents and grandparents and down with our kids. So I'm just gonna go ahead and free motion the rest of my wood grain onto my quilt top, and I've got a family heirloom I can hang in our hallway or snuggle up with at night. And one thing is for sure, this is the kind of quilt that will get passed down for generations, thanks to Janome Accusketch and the S9 Indigo.